بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Today we're going to talk about cross-cultural communication. What is cross-cultural communication? This is when you're trying to deal with someone of a different religion, a different nationality, a different country, a different, even within a country, a different group. It can be a different language. It can be something that is not in common between you. So when we do this, we have to keep in mind the success of cross-cultural communication is not based on language proficiency alone, but on social and cultural factors. Now, you may be able to speak the language of the person that you're talking to. I'm dealing with someone and we both speak English. But my English, I am from a culture of the United States. I'm dealing with someone who is from an African nation. That person, they have English as a native language, because in the country it's English as a native language, but the culture is vastly different. So just because you have proficiency in the language doesn't mean that you're going to be able to cross the barrier of culture, because culture is very different from one place to another, from one group of people. Culture is like an iceberg with most of its weight and bulk hidden beneath the surface. We may be talking to someone. We might be communicating, getting to know each other. Maybe we're discussing something. We might even be on opposite sides of the row and we're discussing it. When we start to communicate, our words are one thing. The meanings of the words can be different from one place to another. You can have a word in one place that the same word from the same language has a completely different meaning. And I'll give you an example. If you go to a place like Tunisia, Algeria, maybe Morocco, you say to someone, Allah atik al-afiyah. In Kuwait, you say this, and you're telling them, may Allah give you health, life, goodness. You say it to somebody in Morocco or Tunisia, you're telling them, may Allah give you the hellfires. The exact opposite, the same words, the same language. Why? Because even words from one place to another can have a slightly different meaning. A group of words together can have a meaning that is insulting. I'll give you another example. My father loves to play dominoes. And when he was playing dominoes, there is a word in Puerto Rico, because he speaks Spanish. In Puerto Rico, when you throw down the double white and you finish the game with the double white, there's a word for that. And I'm not going to say it, so I don't want to teach you guys something. That word, he was actually in Panama playing. And he threw it down and said that word. A woman stood up and smacked him across the face because it had a very, very nasty meaning in that country. Same word. So we need to recognize that culture makes a difference, even if you have the same language. You can all be Arabs, you can all be Americans, you can all be whatever you are, speaking the same language, and still from one area to another, you're going to have a problem with a word. So word is one of the things of culture. The second thing, your hand gestures, your hand movements, that can also have a meaning even within the same country from one place to another. Okay? Anything that we do, the hand gestures, the movements, the words, the coughing out loud, sneezing in front of someone, blowing your nose, anything can have a negative connotation. So if you're trying to communicate, you can't just have knowledge of the language. You need more than that. Cultural differences are a common source of misunderstanding, and they can cause communication breakdowns. I'm trying to teach you something, and as I'm trying to teach it to you, I'm using some kind of gesture, right? You use this gesture in some countries, it's asking how much. You use it in another country, it means wait, patience, slow down. You use it in another country, and it has a completely different meaning. You use it in Italy, and you've insulted somebody. So it doesn't matter that this is my culture. If I'm dealing with someone of a different culture, and I want to convince them of something, I want to bring them to my way of understanding, I'm trying to communicate my ideas, I will completely shut them down. They will close their mind. They will no longer have anything to do with me. Why? Because I have broken down the communication by something I said or I did that I didn't even realize. So if I know that it's going to be my job to be the person who talks to someone and tries to convince them to become a Muslim, that's my job. And I'm going to be dealing with Filipinos. I need to know not just English, I need to know the culture of the Philippines. I need to know what is considered an insult in the Philippines. I need to know what kind of lifestyle does this person have in the Philippines. Because my talking to them, maybe I'm saying something and I'm being just normal, typical American woman, and to them I'm insulting them. Maybe I'm humiliating them. Maybe I'm talking down to them and I don't realize it. So even something as simple as you're talking to someone and you think you're giving them respect, you think you're lifting them up, and they're looking at themselves and saying, why is she talking to me this way? Is she making fun of me? Because culturally, maybe the expectation is this. So you need to have an idea. If I'm talking with someone from India, I need to have an idea of Indian culture, Indian background, and not just a superficial one. I need to really delve into the culture of the people I'm going to be dealing with. If I'm dealing just with Americans, I'm an American dealing with Americans, I need to know the difference. The Northern American, the Southern American, Midwest American, California American, they're very different. They are very different. So even dealing with American to American, from one part of the country to another part of the country, there are things that I shouldn't say, that I shouldn't do. So we need to understand that, because we don't want our cultural differences to be the reason that we lose that person in whatever it is that we're trying to convince them of. Okay? Prejudice. Sometimes we have prejudices we don't even know about. Sometimes we're dealing with a person and it might be normal in my culture, but in another culture that can be racist, that can be prejudicial, that can be, castish, that can be social status. So it can be any kind of negative image or negative word or negative something, and you don't even know it. You don't even realize it. Example, in the South, especially among African Americans. Now, I always had a habit, anybody that's young, especially now at my age, and I will say, oh, you know the boy that you're friends with, to my kids. My kid, I would call him a boy even though he's 20 years old, because he's my son. His best friends are the same age, so to me, he's a child. I don't care if he's 25, 30, whatever. To me, he's still a child because he's my child. But you say the word boy to an African American, you've insulted him. Why? Because in the South, during the times of slavery, this was used as a term that would take and make a man humiliated. You're nothing but a boy. You're not a full man. So you have to watch the word. There are other things. In the United States, if you said to someone anything dealing with the word black, anything, you are black, you are Negro, you are Negroid, you are, and there's bad terms as well, which I won't use, okay? it is considered a huge insult. Move over to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, correct? In Puerto Rico and in many of the South American countries, there is a word negro or negra. It literally means the color black. It is black, a feminine person or object. It is black, a masculine person or object. It literally means black. I used to have a dog called Negro. Why? Because we were living in Panama. And in Panama, not a big deal. Why? In America, this is very, very racist, right? You say this to someone. In South America, Puerto Rico, Panama, Guatemala, all these countries, you go to a woman and say negra, you are saying, my sweetie, my honey, my darling. You say to somebody, negro, this is what you call your husband. Come here, negro. It is a term of endearment, of love. So, you see the difference? What may be your cultural background, and it's okay, and it's fine, and there's no big deal, in another cultural background, if you don't know that culture or background, you can insult somebody without even realizing it. I had a dog in Panama. In Panama, the name Negro as my dog was something as like, I'm calling him my sweetheart, my darling. But when I went back to the United States, we had to change his name because, and that's really hard for a dog. But we had to change his name because we realized that you can't do this. So this can be a prejudice that you don't even recognize is a prejudice because you don't know your culture doesn't have this. Okay? You can have something that you yourself don't even realize. I'm racist. And I've had many instances in my life where someone teaches me something and I'm like, really? That's racist? Is that where it comes from? And I never knew. I never had an idea about this. So this is something that we need to understand. If I'm going to be dealing with African Americans, I need to know African American history. I need to know a little bit of African history. Example, I started reading about ancient civilizations. When you start going back in the books, what you find is that most of these books were written at a time where they were trying to make Upper Africa, especially Egypt, but most of Upper Africa, they were trying to make it, okay, these people, they have a lighter color. And because their color is lighter, yes, they have some brown in them, but it's lighter. So they must have some white in them. Therefore, they are more intelligent. They are stronger. They are better because some of our stuff got into them. And this was who? The colonizers coming in. So what did they do? They made the entire history of Africa from here up. That was it. Down, they have no history. Mansa Musa did not exist. I learned about him as an adult on my own research. People who had beautiful cultures, beautiful, intelligent, highly civilized lands did not exist. And if they somehow found something, how did it get there? The people from the north who had white blood in them went down and showed them. SubhanAllah. Why was this like that? Very simple. The people that were doing the recording of history wanted to record history by their own ideology, and their own ideology is white, superior. The colonizer, superior. And it all goes back to that. So now, if you don't know this, and you start talking to someone and you're giving them, oh yeah, and you know the Africans, they came to America as slaves and this and that. You don't happen to know that some of the greatest scholars Islam has ever known were Africans. They came from Africa, through and up to Mecca and brought back scholars to teach the people. They had more knowledge than many of the people in Arabia. But if you don't know that, if you don't know that some of these people were actually captured and made into slaves, and in the United States they were actually teaching Islam, they were actually able to read and write, and they had a high amount of knowledge. They were scientists, they were sheikhs. If you don't know that, you're telling them, yeah, I know, your people came as slaves and you guys don't know anything, type of mentality. And it's a prejudice, and it's a prejudice that comes from what? A lack of knowledge. You have to learn. You have to, if you're going to deal with anyone, any culture that is not your own culture from your own area, and I mean it, you have in Kuwait, Hadr and Badu, correct? Hadr and Badu. Talking to each other, you have prejudices and stereotypes. What about dealing with a completely different group of people, a completely different language, a completely different mentality? You have to be able to deal with them based on who and what they are. Stereotyping can lead to oversimplified and inaccurate views of people from different cultures. If I'm stereotyping who and what you are based on what little I know of your area, you're an Egyptian. Okay, you're an Egyptian. What do I know about Egypt? The pyramids, the Sphinx, desert. So you're stereotyping because this is the only thing you know about these people. Do you really know the person to be able to talk to them, communicate with them, and convince them of something that you want them to believe, follow, understand? It's not going to work. You are going to actually turn them away from what you're teaching them, away from what you're trying to say to them. So you have to be able to talk to them in their own cultural language as well as their actual language. So having English is not enough if you want to deal with somebody who is an English speaker. In cross-cultural interactions, the tendency to perceive others as different can lead to social isolation and prejudice. Right now, close your eyes, and I want you to think Australian. Think Australian. What are the images that come to your mind? Somebody give me ideas. Yes.
Spiders and kangaroos.
Spiders and kangaroos. What else? Cows.
You don't want to know.
Huh?
I was going to say Steve Irwin.
Yes, exactly. We get all these images, right?
Yeah.
If we only have a basic, I'm American, you're British, we're talking, and we're going to talk to somebody from Australia. If we come in with our preconceived notions, just because we both speak English, but it's a very different cultural background that brings that English, we can so easily insult them. We can easily make them feel like, you're looking down on me. What's your problem? Why are you talking to me like that? And when that person, they may not say it, but in their mind, this is what they're thinking. I'm thinking that this person is looking down on me. I'm thinking this person thinks I am X, Y, and Z because that's the image of an Australian woman. That's the image of an Egyptian man. That's the image of an African. That's the image of a Ugandan. That's the image of whatever, right? Because you don't know. You don't have the cultural references. So you can actually isolate yourself away in terms of communication. If I'm talking to you and we're having a discussion and you don't agree with what I say, the minute you feel that I've insulted you, do you continue to try to convince me? Or do you continue to listen to what I have to say? Or now your brain is switched to, who does she think she is? How dare she talk to me like that? I'll show her, right? We're human beings. This is the way we react to these kinds of interactions. And that breaks down communication. And if you break down communication, even with one small little thing, you've destroyed the whole foundation of trying to convince someone, even if you're 100% right. You're trying to convince someone that the earth is round, or at least like a parabola, not flat. You've just insulted me. Even a donkey knows that the world is round, it's not flat. Now what have you done? You've insulted the person. Am I gonna listen to you after you just called me a donkey? No, right? We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful the words that we choose. Another thing is ethnocentrism is the tendency to view one's own culture as superior and to judge others by that standard. I know your culture. Maybe I know it very well. Maybe I lived 10, 15 years within your culture. I know your culture very well, and I think that your culture is low class. That's my feeling. And because I feel that way, when I'm communicating with you, that is going to come across. They're going to feel that. That is ethnocentrism. I am a Muslim. I consider Islam to be number one above everything else. So if you come to me with your belief in 5 gods, you come to me in your belief in Christianity, you come to me with your belief in Buddha, you come to me in your belief in whatever, I am starting up here, way up here, looking down at you. How am I going to convince you? Even if what I'm saying is the absolute truth, if I am looking down upon you, you're not going to listen to me. You're not going to pay attention to me. You are not going to accept anything I say because I see you as arrogant. And arrogance is not a way to present yourself. So when you have this ethnocentrism, when you have this idea that you are better than whatever it may be, if you allow that to come across, because we're humans, we're always going to be convinced that there's something about ourselves that's better than other people. Always. I'm able to talk really well. I can talk and talk and talk and talk. So I'm dealing with someone and I'm teaching people how to give speeches, how to stand in front of others and speak. And if I'm coming up here, with this idea, I'm a great speaker. I'm a wonderful speaker. You don't know how to speak. Or your speaking level is really not very good. How do you feel? Do you feel like you want to continue to learn from me? No. I remember one time I was at an Islamic event and the speaker was Kuwaiti. All of us in the audience were mixed ethnicities, but all English speakers, and the vast majority of us were reverts to Islam. We came into Islam later. We weren't born into Muslim families. Her entire lecture is, you people don't understand your deen. You people are going to end up in the hellfire because you're not doing the things the right way. You people need to learn. You people don't speak Arabic. You people, and she just kept repeating that. Half of the ladies literally got up and walked away. Think about it. They literally got up and walked away. And these were people who were used to coming to this Islamic center, who loved coming to the classes. They were so insulted, they refused to stay. Imagine, if you're talking to someone, you are now the communicator, you don't want it to be that you're communicating to them, you are less than me. I am the expert and you are the idiot. And that comes across. So when we are communicating, ethnocentrism, meaning I am an Arab teaching an American. I am an Arab teaching a Mexican. I am an Arab teaching a Filipino. I have all the knowledge. I have all the information. You need to just sit and absorb from my greatness. A'udhu billah. It's a really, really bad way to try to communicate. That is the extreme. But even in tiny little ways, we can do this without realizing that we are doing this. If you are going to communicate with someone from another culture, you need to put in your mind, they understand that this is better themselves. They understand this is the better way. I'll give you another example. You're dealing with a Western man and woman. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. They come to you and you want to teach them about Islam. And I'm using Islam as my example. Why? Because I'm a Muslim and this is what I do. So I am going to talk to this man and woman who are boyfriend and girlfriend about Islam. And I'm going to tell them how evil it is to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Is that what I'm going to do? No, I'm not going to do that. Why? I have to know. I have to understand the culture. If you are an American man or an American woman, it does not exist that you go to your father and say, hey, I want to get married, find me someone. This doesn't exist at all. Your father would be like, are you crazy? What do you mean, find you someone? A woman cannot sit in her house, covered from head to toe, and expect to ever get married, ever have children, because that's not the culture. The culture is you have to go through the dating process. The dating process keeps changing. You have to change with the dating process. Otherwise, you will never have a mate in your life. This is that culture. Is it evil? Is it good? Is it bad? It is what exists. Now, as a Muslim, my understanding is this is not good. This is not good for society. This is not good for humanity. This is not good in terms of morality. It's not good in so many levels. That's my understanding. I cannot stand there and judge these two people based on what their culture has taught them is the only way. I can't do that. Because if I do that, I've lost them. I may not agree with the way that they're doing things. I can take them to La ilaha illallah, which is the basis of Islam. And when I take them to the La ilaha illallah and they accept Islam, then we tell them, hey, by the way, Islam does not accept this. But you don't start out by, no, you over here, you over there, don't touch, don't look at each other. We lost them. You lost them because in their society, this is the only way. If this was the only way for you to have a husband or a wife, nothing else exists except this way, what way would you follow? This way. If you are in a small village in Saudi Arabia, from a Bedouin family, forget about Islam. You're a Bedouin woman in Saudi Arabia in a very, very traditional family. How are you going to get married? Are you going to find somebody and date them? No. You're going to get married to your cousin. You're going to get married to, your mom will come to you and say, your aunt asked for you for her son. Or the person from such and such tribe came to us and they asked for you and we're going to give you. That's the only way. Even that is not Islam. You go by the traditions, and culture of what you were brought up with. Is it evil? Is it not evil? It's evil if you know what's right, you know what's wrong, and you go against it. That's when it becomes evil. If you don't know, and this is the only way you know, then there's nothing wrong with it. SubhanAllah. Even in Islam, I knew a lady that when I met her, I didn't even know she was a Muslim. Then I found out she was a Muslim. And one day in Kuwait, she invited me to her apartment for some wine. She's a Muslim. She's a convert. She was in Kuwait and became Muslim in Kuwait. She did not know that alcohol was haram. She knew it was illegal. She did not know it was haram. Because nobody from the people that was around her dared to tell her that, because she was around people who were drinking. SubhanAllah. Is she going to be punished for drinking before she ever found out that it was haram? Will she be punished for this? 20 years she's drinking, let's say. Will she be punished for those 20 years? No. Allah is the most merciful. And that's Allah and halal and haram and something very simple. So we cannot be judging. We cannot do this if we want to communicate. You want to communicate, you communicate on an equal level. You understand the culture of the people that you're with. You understand what they do and why they do it. And then you go from there. In cross-cultural encounters, Ethnocentrism is a major barrier to effective communication and understanding. Is this a double?
Sorry?
I think I doubled the slide.
No.
That one was different. Okay, so it's the same basic idea. Still, you cannot make yourself as superior. Communication apprehension can lead to anxiety and avoidance in cross-cultural interactions. Now, you gotta be confident. You have to do your homework. If you want to deal with somebody of a specific culture, you need to do your homework. Even little things. There was a situation that I knew of, and it was a marriage situation. It wasn't communication, it was marriage. An American woman, Muslim, married a man, and I'm not going to say the culture, and this man came from a culture where the natural body odor was a good thing. It was actually considered something preferable to wearing deodorant and adding things to your body. It was actually considered better. They ended up divorced because she couldn't handle it. In her culture, in American culture, it's deodorant, perfume, powder, anything to make the smell not human. But in his culture, you don't cover up the natural smell of the human being. So this was an issue. If you're going to be giving dawah, and this is your culture, and this is their culture, you need to defer to their culture. You cannot be putting your own ethnocentric understanding and ideas above theirs. So this is like a simple example. It may not even be. It can be something really, 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 really simple. And I did this on purpose. You see all these? What are they doing?
Thumbs up.
In America, what does this mean?
Thumbs up. Good.
Good. In some cultures, this is an obscene gesture.
In my culture, it's bad.
Huh?
In my culture, it means.
Where are you from?
Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh, this is an obscene gesture. So in some cultures, this is bad. So me using it within mixed cultures can be very bad. If they don't understand that this is my culture, this is my understanding, I don't even know that your understanding exists. Another example, when I first came to Kuwait, I was invited to dinner in the Diwaniyah for the women. And they're all sitting on the floor. My foot started to hurt. I'm not used to sitting on the floor. So what did I do? Put my feet out, right towards my mother-in-law.
I did that as well.
Okay? What do you think happened? Everybody blamed me. Everybody was angry with me. My sister-in-law, one who had been in America, knew. And she just walked up to me and she put something over my feet. But I had no clue that I had done anything wrong. Zero. Because it was not something I had learned. I don't know. If I don't know, then you cannot hold me accountable for what I'm doing. So if you are doing cross-cultural interactions, if you are doing cross-cultural communication, you have to know the person you're dealing with, the culture of who you're dealing with. Okay? You're not going to succeed.
May I ask you something? This is
Yes.
just a general question, not your example specifically, but wouldn't you say, to some extent, even if somebody doesn't know, they still have some accountability to, like, ask, say, somebody from Germany, there's no speed limit. If he comes here, she comes here. I mean, is it excused that they don't know that there's speed limits and they just
Well,
go over them? I don't think that's
there is some accountability, but when it comes to culture
culture.
versus laws,
Different.
people will start looking for laws. It's normal for that. But you cannot know that this is an issue until you've passed through it. Like, how in the world am I going to, I'm going to be sitting there going, maybe there's a problem with the feet. There's never been a problem with the feet my entire life.
Oh.
And then suddenly, I learned there's a problem with the feet. Feet have no significance in the United States. So I don't know to ask.
Yes, yes.
Okay?
Like shaking hands.
Yeah, like shaking
Well, in the
hands.
States, like,
Exactly.
it's like, why aren't you shaking my hand?
Why aren't you shaking hands? And I'm going to go into that specifically as an example as well. But we have to understand sociological and psychological pitfalls can help improve communications and avoid misunderstanding. If we have a sociological understanding of the culture we're dealing with, a psychological understanding of the culture that you're dealing with, then it's easier to communicate and easier to convince people one way or the other. What time is it?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Sister Sharif, I have
Yes.
one question.
Go ahead.
For example, from my side, since I came to Kuwait, if I go in the hospital or anywhere, I will tell somebody my name is Amina. And because I'm from Africa, people will not believe that I was born as a Muslim. Okay? So
Okay.
I got so tired of this. And most of the time somebody will ask me, I will just say, I just converted last month. Because it's really hard to convince someone that I'm Africa and we're Muslim, we're born, but they would say, Amina is an Arabic name. How, you don't know how to speak Arabic. How do you know about Islam?
SubhanAllah. And yet Indonesia, same thing.
Let
You
me
know.
also comment on that.
Yeah.
I used to teach Islamic studies.
Yes.
Islamic studies in an American school in Kuwait. And I used to take my students to a mosque to lead them in Salah. Yet they were asking, Ustad, anta Muslim?
It's very.
The first time,
There was a time I was asked by somebody who's
Well,
very big.
you know, I understand this completely. The first time I went to Hajj, I came from the United States. Now, I changed my name. When I became a Muslim, I changed it to Sharifa Abdullah Carlo. I kept my family name. Abdullah, because my father's name in Italian is the same as the slave of different God, but still the slave of a God. So I changed it, even though I didn't know that that was haram. But I did it legally, okay? So I have these 3 names. So here I am, giving them my passport, and he's like, Min Wen. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Especially that time, I knew no Arabic. It's like, Min Wen, we're from America. No, father, America. Father, America. Father. It's like, all America. I'm American.
We're going back to Adam.
Go back to Adam, right? All of America. And then I would say Italy. Because my family came from Italy originally. So that's a problem. I also have had people go, you know, it's like, أنا أعرف شريفة. أنا أعرف عبد الله. شنو Carlo? Yeah, because they know Sharifa's a Muslim name, Abdullah's a Muslim name. But Carlo, no clue. So you have to explain it to them. And a lot of times people do not know. They don't know, even as Muslims, they don't know where Islam is. You take a look at people in other societies. They'll look at us and say, all Muslims are Arabs. All people who wear hijab are Arabs. All people who wear niqab, Arabs. So the stereotyping continues. So you have to, if you're the one doing the communication, you have to educate. If you're the one who wants to teach something or show something, you need to do the education, okay? So the challenges of cross-cultural communication lies not only in the difference of language and culture, but also in the difference of worldviews and value systems. What you consider to be right and wrong is important. Give me a second. Can you pause? I need to fix something and I'll be right back, okay?